Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kim Coombs, and I have the privilege of being the Holocaust Studies Program Planner for the School District of Palm Beach County, Florida. 76 years ago today, over 7,000 prisoners, including 700 children, of the Nazi Auschwitz camp were liberated by the soldiers of the Soviet Army, ending 1,689 days of murder, pain, and suffering. For the world, Auschwitz is a painful reminder of how humanity can be led by the ideologies of hatred. In 2005, the United Nations declared January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Through this remembrance ceremony, leaders and students from our district and speakers from abroad will join Holocaust survivors in conveying the urgent responsibility we all share to protect the lessons and legacy of this history and to defend the truth, now more than ever. Ava Diamond, ninth grader at William T. Dwyer High School, and then Dr. Donald Fenoy, Superintendent of Palm Beach County Schools, followed by Keith Oswald, Deputy Superintendent of our school district, will begin our remembrance ceremony today.
I am the great-granddaughter of two brave Holocaust survivors, Abraham and Rose Birnbaum, so I'm especially proud to be speaking to you today on January 27th, the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the deadliest Nazi concentration camp in World War II. My name is Ava Diamond, and I'm a freshman at William T. Dwyer High School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and am fortunate to be studying Holocaust honors with our teacher, Mr. Daryl Schwartz. My great-grandfather, Abraham, survived Auschwitz. At his liberation, he was barely alive, starving and close to dying of tuberculosis. Worse than his physical suffering, though, was the realization that his first wife and baby daughter, along with his 6 brothers and sisters, had been sent to Treblinka, all murdered in the gas chambers. My great-grandmother, Rose, who I'm thrilled to say is still alive today at the age of 95, was also a survivor, having lost her entire family in Auschwitz. Rose was just 14 years old, just 1 year younger than me when she was first sent to a concentration camp. What troubles me the most about the Holocaust is how individuals could have been so completely inhumane to their fellow man. The suffering that the Jews and others went through makes it so important that we shine a light on their history on days like today, to bring public awareness to these horrible events so it can never happen again. I believe if my generation is informed about the Holocaust through education and the study of history, then we can ensure that the nightmare of Auschwitz can never happen again, and heroes like Abraham and Rose can never be forgotten. Thank you.
Good afternoon, students and staff. Today, on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we honor every man, woman, and child who was a victim of the Third Reich during the Holocaust. Any denial or indifference to this chapter in the history of humankind takes away from all of us. It is a day to remember the importance of rejecting messages of hate and to understand the devastating realities of anti-Semitism. It is a day to embrace diversity rather than excluding people based on their religion, the color of their skin, gender, or sexuality. In the classroom, you learn about systematic planned annihilation of European Jews and other groups by Nazi Germany. By learning about this watershed event in the history of humanity, you will gain a deeper understanding of the ramifications of prejudice, intolerance, and stereotyping. I hope you will talk about what it means to be responsible and a respectful person, and that you encourage acceptance of diversity in our society. Together through education, we can combat anti-Semitism, discrimination, and bigotry. That's why we're here today, to remember and reflect. I would like to share a story with you about a former U.S. soldier turned educator who witnessed the impact of the Holocaust and for years shared his profound message. His name was Leon Bass. Leon was born in Philadelphia in 1925. His parents were born in South Carolina at the beginning of the Jim Crow era. As a young African-American man during World War II, Leon served in the United States Army. In April of 1945, he and 4 others from the 183rd Combat Engineers arrived at Buchenwald concentration camp in Weimar, Germany, just one day after it was liberated. Decades later, in his recorded testimony, Leon recalled, "Had I been told about Buchenwald, I doubt if I could, in my mind's eye, envision anything as horrible as what I saw." This experience changed Leon, but it would be decades before he began to talk about what had happened in 1945 and what it meant to him. He realized the empathy he felt for those prisoners came from his own struggle with racism and from his growing awareness that anti-Semitism knows no national or international boundaries. In a time when our country was struggling through the Vietnam War, student protest, and racial turmoil, Leon stepped forward to tell what he had seen in the concentration camp at the end of the Holocaust in 1945. He had seen the effects of anti-Semitism and racism, and it scarred him deeply. He later became principal of an inner-city high school in Philadelphia. It was there that Leon had another encounter that would change his life. A female Jewish Holocaust survivor who was speaking to a class was telling students about her experiences at Auschwitz. But students ignored her. After all, Leon recalled, these students had their own pain. Leon told the students to listen to the woman. He told them he had been there, and every painful word she had said was true. The mood changed. The students looked at the tattoo on her arm and began to ask questions. They began to talk to her, and as the survivor said goodbye to Leon, she told him to tell others what he had saw. History must be shared. We all must understand the atrocities of the Holocaust. We must acknowledge anti-Semitism. We must acknowledge and address systematic racism on every front. That day, surrounded by students and speakers, Leon knew he had a mission, a responsibility to share the atrocities that he had witnessed in Germany. Leon realized he needed to stop suppressing the haunting memories of what he saw in 1945 and use them to enlighten others and prevent future pain. These are human problems that must be remembered and confronted. Until his death in 2015, that is exactly what Dr. Leon Bass did. He told his story to anyone who would listen, including Palm Beach County students in 2014. I would like to thank our survivors who are with us today and throughout the school year sharing their personal stories with our students. Your strength is an inspiration. Your commitment to educating future generations is a priceless investment. And you are appreciated for your heartfelt work within our school district and beyond, as stories are shared. Our district television network has been recording the stories of local survivors as an invaluable educational tool and as a permanent and significant firsthand account of the atrocities of the Holocaust. You have my word that these stories will be continually shared with our students, and the stories will live on as the years pass and we continue to lose the survivors, liberators, and witnesses of the Holocaust who will no longer be with us to tell their stories in person. Thank you, Insight Through Education, for your unwavering support of Holocaust education in Palm Beach County. You have my gratitude for supporting our students for more than 10 years with resources and materials valued at more than $1 million. And thank you to the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County for sponsoring the remarkable photo exhibit that you are about to see called Humans of the Holocaust. I am humbled by the work of this collective group and your commitment to Holocaust education in Palm Beach County. On behalf of the school district and the school board, thank you. Thank you, students and teachers, for your participation today that we in Palm Beach County will never forget.
Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in this afternoon on this important day. As we commemorate the liberation of Auschwitz, we want to dedicate this program today to Insight Through Education. I want to thank, in particular, two very special people to make this possible, Nancy Cook and Linda Berlin, the presidents of Insight, for being here with us today and for all that they have done over the years. Insight Through Education is an organization that fights prejudice through education. They have been generous supporters to the Palm Beach County School District for over 10 years, and they continue to show us support now. They have provided materials for you, the students, and the teachers, many of you who are watching here today. There have been numerous training and travel opportunities also for students and teachers that were paid for, again, by Insight, so that students can continue to learn the lessons of the Holocaust. Maybe you are one of the 5,000 students that viewed the film through the eyes of a friend during Holocaust Education Week. That was brought to you by a generous grant from Insight Through Education. So on behalf of the Palm Beach County School District, We thank you so much for all that you do. We hope that this partnership will continue to flourish for the years to come. Again, and you see Nancy and Linda here. Again, thank you so much. You guys are such great partners, and we're fortunate here in Palm Beach County to have these great partnerships to support the education of all of our students and the great teachers to deliver that content. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Kim.
Thank you to Ava Diamond, to Dr. Fenoy, and to Mr. Oswald. Thank you to Insight Through Education. We are fortunate to have two local Holocaust survivors here today, Norman Frajman and Mary Eckstein. They are on the board of the Child Survivors, Hidden Children of the Holocaust of Palm Beach County. They have spoken to thousands of students throughout Palm Beach County. Students like you have learned firsthand what life was like during the Holocaust and how we must heed the warning signs of genocide. So from the bottom of our hearts, Mr. Frajman and Mrs. Eckstein, we thank you for all you have done and all you continue to do to educate the students of Palm Beach County. In fact, Mrs. Eckstein is speaking tomorrow to the students at John I. Leonard High School, so thank you for that. I also want to thank Mrs. Eckstein's son, Peter Eckstein. Peter's here with us today representing the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, and we want to thank them for generously bringing us the photo exhibit, Humans of the Holocaust, that we are about to see a sneak preview of. Erez Kaganovitz, a photographer coming to us today all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. Erez has been traveling Israel to document as many stories and images as he can from living Holocaust survivors. He himself is a grandchild of Holocaust survivors and hopes his photo exhibition helps to increase awareness among young Americans. I'd now like to welcome Erez Kaganovitz and Humans of the Holocaust.
Kim, thank you so much for having me in this special occasion on the International Memorial Day of the Holocaust. My name is Erez Kaganovitz, and I'm a photojournalist. And I'm the founder of the Humans of the Holocaust project. And I want to today to actually, to share with you my thoughts and my ideas about Holocaust education and about why I even created the Humans of the Holocaust project. So let's start. So about the Humans of the Holocaust project, in this picture, I actually posted this picture on the International Memorial Day of the Holocaust a few years ago. And the thing is that this picture went viral on my all social media outlets. And the thing is that, the most striking thing for me was that, in Israel, most of the people realize on the first glance what they're actually seeing. But people around the world didn't really understand what they saw in this picture because there was some kind of a dissonance between what they saw and what they understood. Because when you look at this picture, it's a little bit confusing. You see the arms of young people and you see a tattoo and you see a serial number. And there's something that you don't really grasp at first glance. And the thing is that, when I posted this picture, it went viral because of that dissonance. And the thing is that I got a lot of messages from the Arab and Muslim world, from people who told me, listen, this is the first time we realize what happened in the Holocaust. And this is the first time we even realized why the State of Israel was even established. And I was really moved from those messages because I realized that I have the power to better educate and to better inform people about what happened in the Holocaust. And the thing is that, I didn't realize how important that was until 2019. Because in 2019, I stumbled upon a survey that was actually made by the Claims Conference, and that survey showed that 66% of young millennials never heard about Auschwitz, and that 50% of those young millennials could not even name one concentration camp or ghetto. Now, those numbers, send a shiver down my spine. It was really alarming. And I thought to myself, well, if 66% never heard about Auschwitz, it means that those young millennials never heard about the atrocities that happened in Auschwitz, and they could not even comprehend what anti-Semitism and what blind hatred can actually cause. But that was only one part of the problem. The other part of the problem was that we are actually in the last few years there's a huge rise in anti-Semitism all around the world, but mainly in the United States. And in 2019, there were approximately 2,000 anti-Semitic attacks against American Jewry. Now, when you take into account the fact that you have this rise in anti-Semitism and you have the rise in ignorance about what happened in the Holocaust, it's a very dangerous combination. It's a lethal combination. And I was trying to think out what I can do to actually engage with those young millennials, with the young generation about what happened in the Holocaust. Now, I could have been mad about those young generation, about those young people for being so ignorant about the Holocaust, but I realized they're not the one to be blamed. Because when you think about it, the Holocaust is a very gloomy subject. It's horrific. It's always, it's black and white. When you see all the documentaries with all the dead bodies, it's really hard to engage with. So I realized that they're not the one to be blamed. We need to actually reinvent and rethink the way that we are actually telling the story of the Holocaust. And I can tell you that, for myself, I'm Jewish. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. And still, when I was your age, when I was in high school, I didn't want to have any connection to the Holocaust whatsoever. And I grew up in Israel. In Israel, you actually, you are hammered with Holocaust education from first grade until you're finishing high school. And still, I didn't want to have any connection to the Holocaust whatsoever. So I thought to myself, if I didn't want to have any connection to it, why would, let's say, a millennial or somebody who is, a student right now in Palm Beach County would want to engage with the Holocaust? And I realized that we have to convey the story of the Holocaust in a different way, and we have to show the Holocaust in a very, it could be optimistic, it could be full of life, it could be with a global message. And this is the reason why I started the Humans of the Holocaust project. And I realized that we have to change the way that we address this issue. And we can show the Holocaust even, with a sense of humor. Now, when you look at this picture, this is Dougal Leitner, and he is an Auschwitz survivor. And the first time we spoke over the phone, he told me that, it's for him, he told me this amazing quotation saying that for him, it doesn't matter that, no matter which place you are on Earth, you can always use your sense of humor. And this is exactly what you see in this picture, because look at him. Dougal Leitner is actually, embracing a yellow balloon star, which is actually in the shape of the yellow badge the Jews were forced to wear during the Holocaust. And he's smiling, and he's very optimistic. And the thing is that he actually took, when we first spoke, we realized that his picture has to be optimistic and full of life. And the thing is that he actually, when we composed this picture, we took the symbol that turned him and turned the Jews, into a subhuman, and turned it upside down on its head and created a very optimistic picture, a very optimistic composition. And every time I remember Dougal, he always tell me that, no matter what is happening right now in your life, you always have to find the resilience, and you always have to find your sense of humor. And if you will find your sense of humor, you will be able to overcome all the hardships that you're actually facing in your life. And this is a very moving, message for somebody who actually, survived the Holocaust. So it could be a sense of humor. It could also be a sense of hope. This lady, her name is Laila Jabarin, and she's a Holocaust survivor. And she was born in a concentration camp in Hungary. And the thing is that she spent 2 years of her life in a concentration camp in Hungary. And after the Holocaust, she immigrated with her family to Israel. And in the age of 15, she actually met Muhammad. And she fell in love with Muhammad, and she married Muhammad, and she converted to Islam, and she became this matriarch of this Palestinian Muslim clan. And she's living today in Al-Fahim, which is a big Arab city in Israel. And while we were sitting in her living room, I remember that she told me that when she was a kid, people were trying to kill her because she was Jewish. And today there are people who would like to kill her because she's a Muslim. And we spoke about what happened in Pittsburgh, the massacre that happened in the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh a few years ago. And she spoke about what happened in Christchurch, the massacre that happened in the mosques over there a few years ago. And she told me that for her, the same people who pulled the trigger in both Pittsburgh shooting and both in the Christchurch shooting was people who were motivated from blind hatred and people who were motivated from anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and hatred to different minorities. And for her, she wanted to share her story so other people will see that compassion is also a possibility and coexistence is also a possibility. And for her, I remember that when her words was that even we're all God's children, and in the bottom line, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish, and it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, and it doesn't matter if you're Christian. In the bottom line, we can all coexist together. So it could be about humor, it could be about sense of hope, it could be about the power of forgiveness. Eva Cole Moses was one of the 3,000 Mengele twins who she actually managed to survive Auschwitz. And a few years ago, she decided that she is willing to forgive the Nazis and forgive Dr. Mengele for all the atrocities she went through in Auschwitz. And the thing is that she told me that for her, she preferred to forgive the Nazis because being a Holocaust survivor, there's a lot of a burden on her shoulders, because being a survivor, if you don't forgive, you always have to think of all the bad memories, and you always have to cope with all the atrocities that you experience. But when you forgive, you give yourself the ability to move on with your life. And Eva, in 2018, Eva went to Los Angeles and she gave this amazing interview to BuzzFeed, who actually went viral. And when I say viral, I mean that hundreds of millions of people from all over the world heard her story about her forgiveness philosophy, and they heard about the Holocaust. And the great thing about Eva, you can agree or you can disagree with her forgiveness, but you cannot take away from her the fact that she managed to actually spark she actually managed to ignite a huge spark of curiosity about the Holocaust and about Holocaust education. And this is exactly what we need to do if we want to engage more people and if we want to actually, to bring the story of the Holocaust to the young generation. And if I can actually, give you my 2 cents about Holocaust education and about the reason that I created the Humans of the Holocaust Project, is that if we won't tell the story of the Holocaust in a very, in an optimistic way, and in a way that is actually colorful, in a way that we can actually, it won't be fascinating or interesting, people won't engage with that, and people will actually disengage. So, if people will disengage from the memory of the Holocaust, it will be terrible, because it will face, it will be such a great threat to our society, to our democracy, and to our ability to actually live together. So we need to do everything in our power to actually tell the story of the Holocaust in a different light, so people will be able to engage with it. So thank you so much for listening. And Kim, the broadcast is going back to you.
Thank you, Erez, for that important message. And we look forward to seeing the full photo exhibit displayed in classrooms around the Palm Beach County School District. I want to just take a minute to go back because I think we had some technical difficulty, and I want to make sure that we introduce Mr. Norman Frajman, as he has been a vital part of the Holocaust education in our district. He himself has spoken to thousands of students and shared his experience. And so we didn't get to see Norman before, so I wanted to bring him back so we could thank him for everything he's done for our students. It is now my pleasure to introduce Leticia Vega. She's an 8th grader from Loggers Run Middle School and a student of Mrs. Julie Gates, and she's going to read to us a beautiful poem that she selected.
Hello, my name is Leticia Vega, and I'm an 8th grade student in Miss Gates' class at Loggers Run Middle School. The poem I am reading for you today is named Each of Us Has a Name, and it is made by the Hebrew poet Zelda. Each of us has a name, given by God and given by our parents. Each of us has a name, given by our stature and given by our smile and given by what we wear. Each of us has a name, given by the mountains and given by our walls. Each of us has a name, given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Each of us has a name, given by our sins and given by our longing. Each of us has a name, given by our enemies and given by our love. Each of us has a name, given by our celebrations and given by our work. Each of us has a name, given by the seasons and given by our blindness. Each of us has a name, given by the sea and given by our death.
Holocaust survivor named Erez Kaganovitz, who escaped war-torn Europe to the Philippines with his family, and a piano student named Noah Kriegstein from Bach Middle School of the Arts. Mr. Lippitt shares his emotional ties to the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which debuted in 1939 in the movie The Wizard of Oz.
If you saw the film The Wizard of Oz, which Judy Garland was in, there's a song there called Over the Rainbow. This is a song written by Harold Arlen and Yip Habsburg. Now just picture yourself in a German concentration camp. People are dying all over. They're being gassed. You don't know when it's your turn. People are being killed. 1.5 million children have already been killed. And you're wondering, what am I doing here? Why me? What's going on? What's going on? Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there is a land I heard of, Israel. Once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbows, skies are blue. And the dreams that you dare not dream really, really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind us, where troubles melt like lemon drops, away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then can't I? 10 years later was the state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erez Kaganovitz. Thank you, Noah Kriegstein, and thank you everyone at the Television Education Network for making that video. I also want to take this opportunity to give a special thank you to my predecessor, Maureen Carter. Mrs. Carter has retired but continues to work tirelessly in educating Florida's youth about the Holocaust. Mrs. Carter, on behalf of Palm Beach County Schools, we thank you for being an inspiration to us all. We share great gratitude for all you have done and all you have taught us, and we send our very best wishes for a happy retirement. Thank you to all of you for joining us live today as we commemorate the beginning of the end of the Holocaust. As Auschwitz was liberated, more camps were discovered and liberated all over Europe, which brought the darkest period of human history to an end. We take this time to learn the lessons of the past so that humanity may never repeat such atrocities in the future. We have learned from our survivors about the most unparalleled crime against humanity, and that the responsibility is on me and on you to speak out against injustice. We must make sure that this history does not repeat itself and crimes like the Holocaust will remain in the past. It is our job now to be upstanders against all forms of hatred, crimes, discrimination, and intolerance towards our fellow human beings. Holocaust survivor Estelle Laughlin said, "It's not enough to curse the darkness of the past. We have to illuminate the future." On days of remembrance, the most important thing to remember is the humanity that is in all of us. To leave the world better for our children and for posterity. In Palm Beach County, we remember. Thank you for your time today.